Buccaneers Shipshape is a traditional 2.5D beat-em-up that sadly embodies the worst of shallow retro throwbacks. You see, in your actual average old-school beat-em-up, you're expected and encouraged to observe every enemy on screen, their behaviors, and carefully manage your positioning and spacing to control the battlefield. Range, movement speed, plays, and counterplays must be calculated multiple times a second over the course of many tense conflicts. Sounds pretty great, right? I agree, that's why I love this genre, and these design principles have been present since its very inception. But somehow they're completely missing in Buccaneers Shipshape, because in Buccaneers Shipshape, I couldn't really tell the enemies apart. If you asked me to distinguish their characteristics or mannerisms or deconstruct my methods of approach, I could not. I couldn't even distinguish most of the bosses from each other. The AI is shallow, and practically any tactic works on any given enemy. Generally, in other beat-em-ups, one has to vary their strategy to suit the situation, but no, not here. This is mind-numbing, borderline brainless stuff. I think part of me died during this hypnotically disinteresting button-mashing gameplay. I played solo and cooperatively, both were equally distressing in their dull emptiness. This feels like a brief, colorful distraction, not a thoughtful arcade-style experience. But you know what was a thoughtful arcade-style experience? The original Buccaneers, because yeah, that's right, Shipshape is a reimagining, and a pretty poor one at that. The arcade original was concise, grounded, methodical, and forced the player to cautiously reckon with the challenges before them. Was it cheesable? Absolutely, but that cheese was earned through an acute understanding of spatial awareness. Meanwhile, Shipshape, even at only 30 minutes long, feels bloated. It's like a rambling anecdote that refuses to end and sacrifices the original title's down-to-earth nature for a bunch of fantasy nonsense like mermaids and magical lasers. I'm not saying mermaids and magical lasers are bad, I'm crazy about fantasy, but when you're adapting someone else's work, you have a responsibility to maintain some degree of faithfulness, and that's plainly missing here in tone and design and pacing. Basically, Buccaneers Shipshape is trivial. I've played many free fan games with more respectful, thoughtful, meaningful spins on this genre. If I seem a bit too harsh here, then keep in mind the crux of my argument is this. You can boot up Final Fight, Double Dragon, Streets of Rage, Golden Axe, King of Dragons, Turtles in Time, The Punisher, Renegade, or even Captain America and the Avengers, and always be sure of at least one thing. Those games will ask you to think about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and respect the consequences of your actions. Buccaneers Shipshape, contrarily, only asks that you remain conscious. I would be remiss not to mention that while I was writing and performing this review, they did release a hard mode update. The hard mode update does incidentally make the game more challenging and thoughtful by removing some of the pickups and decreasing the life count. But incidental is the key word here, right? The problem is that the game was not built to be thoughtful. It was not built to encourage thought. Easy games can be thoughtful, hard games can be mindless, so this is technically a step in the right direction, but it misses the core point in a way that can't be fixed through updates.